So it's 3 days before Christmas, and Eskom is yet to confirm if 2022 will bring with it the first Christmas day spent with power cuts. As things stand, we're currently on stage 4 of these power cuts. Eskom blaming several factors in recent days, including the regular breakdown of some of its equipment for the situation. We can speak now to energy analyst Clyde Mallison, who's joining us for more. Clyde, good to see you, and that you've got your lights, electricity on tonight. I was just talking there about the fact that we've got 3 days before Christmas, and Eskom is not saying anything about whether or not it'll be able to keep us able to keep our homes electrified for full 24 hours.
Yeah, I think Eskom have probably learned that it doesn't work to make predictions about load shedding. And they have said repeatedly that the performance of their coal fleet is unreliable, unpredictable, and the honest truth is they can't actually tell us. But we can make some predictions if we look at the data carefully.
What are we able to tell at this stage, given just how fluid the situation has been?
Well, having done a bit of research, the first thing that's of interest is that Christmas Day has a totally different load pattern to any other day in the year. On Christmas Day, we peak at about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, whereas on most other days of the year, we peak at about 7 o'clock in the evening. And I reckon it's because everyone's busy cooking that Christmas roast or turkey in the morning for Christmas lunch, and then by about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, everyone's napping on the couch and no one's using electricity. So we have a Christmas fingerprint, if you like, on the load profile, which is quite interesting.
Are you suggesting, Clyde, that we get the roast going at 3 a.m. this year to be safe?
Well, if you want to be safe and you want to do a nice slow roast, that's one option. But it looks, it's a different thing. Now, it looks as if Eskom themselves are predicting that we will use about 25.5 gigawatts or 25,500 megawatts at peak at about 11 o'clock on Christmas Day. Now, at the moment, the coal fleet's battling to do 17. Sometimes it's got as low as 16 of that 25. But let's hope we can get 17. Then the one unit at Coburg, because remember the other one's down for refurbishment, will take us up to 18. Then we get about 1.5 from Cahora Bassa, so we're at 19.5. And we get about half a gigawatt from Van der Kloof Dam and Gerrit Dam, so we're up to 20. Then if we let water out of our pump storage, we can get to about 22. And if we've got diesel in the tank, we can get up to 25. And it looks like we've done it, but we haven't got any reserve margin. So basically, on Christmas Day, we're going to have to rely, thankfully, on sunshine and wind. And if we have a nice sunny day, we'll get at least 3 gigawatts in that morning period where we're going to peak from the sun, and we'll get some wind, and we can keep our diesel as that reserve margin. So I'm afraid it's a choice between a dark Christmas and a windy and sunny Christmas.
So with that in mind, then, how there'd have to be this pulling of resources, basically, by Eskom, to put it loosely, in order to keep the lights on and allow everyone to be able to prepare their meals and the rest of it. If they're able at Eskom to pull that off on Christmas Day, is it sustainable beyond the period of the 26th through to the beginning of the new year?
Probably not. No, I'm afraid that they might be able to do it by filling up their reserve capacity in the pump storage on the day before Christmas, making sure that they've got a bit of money in the bank and a bit of diesel in the tank for Christmas Day, but they'll basically be emptying their storage cabinets to keep us from load shedding on Christmas Day, which means they'll have to replenish them we're in for a tough Boxing Day, if it's still called Boxing Day, I'm not sure. So what really concerns me is that if we're so tight on the day where we use the least amount of electricity in the year, goodness knows what's going to happen in the new year, where industry picks up and we start getting back into the swing of things in 2023. That's really the message, and the bleak message, I'm afraid. Christmas might be okay, but boy, it's going to be a tough year next year.
Let's talk about that first week of January, when most businesses will then slowly begin to reopen. Manufacturers will also start to get their machines going. And as you're saying, there'll be a higher need, a higher demand for electricity. This year we've seen a more frequent stage 6 load shedding than in previous years. Do you think it's going to become more of a recurring occurrence?
Well, I'm afraid stage 4 to 5 is our new normal now. That's just we used to have a normal of, let's call it 1 or 2, not that it was always at that stage, and we oscillated. Let's say 2 was kind of becoming normal, and we oscillated between 0 and 4. I'm afraid 4 is normal now, and we'll oscillate between 2 and 6. And if the coal fleet continues to perform as badly as it's currently performing, I'm afraid we're in line to see our first nibbles at stage 7 and 8, probably towards the end of January. It takes us about into the 3rd week of January before we seem to wake up and start using more electricity. So there's normally a depressed usage right through to about the middle of January. I don't know if that's when the builder's holiday ends or something, but basically it picks up. And I'm afraid we're in desperate straits at the moment.
Last thing, Clyde, how helpful will the deployment of the military be to all of this to try and deal with issues around theft and sabotage at some of the power stations, when you consider that we don't even know how widespread the issues of theft and sabotage are? So how do we measure the success of the deployment if we don't know the magnitude of the problem?
Yeah, I think the best we can hope for tightening up on security is to hold the line where it is at the moment, but not necessarily to improve it, unless we've got the engineering core of the military to come with their spanners and toolkits, which I doubt. So I think the military at the stations have been deployed to try and keep it where it is, but not allow it to get worse. We're in a very desperate situation, I'm afraid. And the problem is that the units that are still managing to operate are having to take up the extra load because the other ones aren't working. And so, when they have to work harder, they are more prone to trips and breakdowns than they would otherwise be.
Clyde Mallison, thank you for your time as always.